Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Tulsa Tempo Podcast. This is our first show of 2025. We are so glad to be here for another year. I'm your hostess, Amy Elizabeth, and we have a very special guest with us today. Introduce yourself and tell us about this music we heard today. I cannot wait to dig into this.
So I'm Kristen. I perform at Static Cathedral, and I would describe it as a solo instrumental progressive rock experience. Like, you can't really call myself a band because it's me. And so like a lot of this is, built off of a lot of the music that I listened to growing up, especially from old Nintendo games and Saturday, morning cartoons. So yeah.
So you're not looping in instrument, you're not multi-instrumental, you're not looping them in. So talk about how the virtual thing works. That's interesting because that sounds great.
So my writing process, I'm a very visual writer as opposed to like a jamming kind of writer. Jamming like chokes me up and I get anxious. So I write most of my music through a composing software called Guitar Pro. I've been using for well over a decade and a half. But I write out all my songs in that, and most of the time, it just starts with me just plugging away. Like I'll choose a tempo, choose a key, and I'll go wild. And right now, this is all within a music template, which features, right now it's up to 21 individual instrument tracks.
Wow.
And 6 of those are ones that I focus on playing. The electric guitar parts are all me. Everything else is done through virtual instruments. So I write these tracks out, export them, and plug it into my audio workstation, and do a lot of manual adjustment of velocities and triggers and all sorts of things. And it's consumed me. Like it's what I love to do. It's crazy. Like the songs just keep building themselves up.
That's great. How long does it take usually? I mean, do you find that you spend more time on like certain rhythms or certain themes of songs, like the slower ones, faster ones, so how does the whole process, how does it come together? So you start with your guitar and then you build in the instruments. And so like how long does that take? Like a week, a day, or does it just vary on your motivation?
It really depends. Yeah. So a lot of the material that I've built Static Cathedral around was written about 2 years ago. Around March or the spring of 2022, I lost my job and I became hyper fixated on composing music. And I ended up in a process of like a couple months, wrote 3 hours worth of music, each with that many tracks, basically. Wow. The unfortunate thing is somewhere in there I lost a lot of those. I mistakenly pulled a flash drive out. And everything was gone. We even tried to get it data harvested, and it was going to cost $1,200, and I was like, these are my songs, I need them back. Because some of them really meant a lot to me. There's one that I wrote for my child, which is an idea that's started since they were since birth. And so some songs were just a day. Marianne would hear, or my wife, she would hear me in the morning and just be like, that's a cool idea. And then by the end of the day, I'm like, hey, you want to listen to this? And it's 3 to 4 minutes of obscene amounts of tracks happening at once. It's some of them take up to a week. It just really depends. On motivation or interest. I sit down with a blank template, plug in a beats per minute that I think would work great. Choose a key because I like to experiment in writing in different keys, and then I just go wild and see what comes out of it. And I feel like adapting this process and being comfortable with it has really opened up a lot of musical ideas for me, because it used, I would get choked up trying to jam or trying to force myself to write a riff. Instead, it was just no, I'm just gonna sit down and just plug away, and I will not move on from a bar of music until I've listened to it well over 100 times. And that's just an individual bar. And each song is 100 plus, so it's absurd. But when I'm in that hyper focus mode, nothing matters. I just write.
Wow, I love that though.
Yeah.
I love it because it has created some very, very good music.
Thank you.
Yeah, so how did you come up with the name Static Cathedral? I'm curious about that. I love it, and I like the little math, I guess, that you do on it. So talk to me about that.
So when I was in college, I studied chemistry. So that was the inspiration of that. Was I took like the sulfur and carbon periodic table blocks and just turned it into Static Cathedral. Which is
how
fun.
cool!
But the name originated from my wife. It was just something like tossed around because we always like joke around like, we'll say the most like absurd thing and just be like, oh, that'd be a great band name. And so like we've got like this Google Keep list of like all these absurd band names of things that we've said. And Static Cathedral was like one of those. And so why Static Cathedral was, my kiddo was like, I love that. Like that should be it. And so the start of last year, my kiddo was like telling me like, you should start a band because like they were so tired of me just listening to my like tracks that I had written, and they were just like, why don't you do something with that? And so yeah, I was. I did an open mic for this group called One Ox. They host a monthly open mic for people who write bizarre, weird music. And most of like the idea is like you just plug in an aux cord and go. And so that worked perfectly for me, right?
Sure,
All my tracks were just MP3s. And so the first time I signed up for that, I did it under my name, Kristen Ousen. And then the next, while doing the performance, I brought my child on to like MC, and like these songs didn't have names; they were just numbers to me. And so my thing was like, hey kiddo, just go up there and like make up names. Just whatever the first thing you think of, say it. That'll be the name of the song. And so like,
oh my gosh.
yeah, so they're up there, we're sitting at a table, like I got my laptop up and they're drawing pictures and then just like introducing me, and they're like, oh, by the way, he's Static Cathedral. And then I was just like, okay.
It just stuck.
Yeah, I'm just like, all right, I'm going with that, sure. And like everybody loved it. So it was at the event, and then
I love that.
yeah, and it just like, I don't know, it sounded cool, and it seemed like it just kind of worked with what I'm doing, I guess, like the vibe of the music I write, I suppose.
That's so cool. And then that everybody's involved. Your whole family. I think that's great.
Yeah, I even include my pets. My pets are considered the producers.
I love it.
So every EP that I've released has been 6 songs, and that's because I have 6 pets. And so every song is then judged on their vibe about which animal of mine they sound like, or they seem like, and that song gets a name of a nickname for that pet.
So what kind of animals do you have?
I have 5 cats. Right now we have 5. We just got a new one too. So like, we've always been at 5 cats though. We lost Alba last October, unfortunately. She's a sweetheart. Still love her to death, and she will always be featured. But there's 5 cats, 1 dog, all rescues. They're the weirdest cats and dogs you've ever seen. There's Olive, Ink, Stormy, Elbows, one that gets, she still gets named even though she passed. Rosie's our dog. She's a German Shepherd mix. And then, what did I miss? We got Goose, and then now we've got Hypotenuse. And so everybody gets a name, and everybody gets a nickname. So, we've also got a list of like the nicknames that we come up with for these cats. So like when I'm recording a new song, getting ready to put it together into an EP or something, like, all right, which cat is who?
Oh, how sweet!
Yeah.
That's awesome. When I lived in Monument Valley, I did a lot of animal rescue work up there, and at one point we had 12 cats. Or no, I'm sorry, 6 cats and 6 dogs.
Oh, wow.
And we weren't going to get any more. Yeah, right. Those were our foster fails. And then we had over 250 animals, like mom cats, big cats, little cat. We had a feral community up there. So half of the paycheck went to taking care of the animals up there. But You have to, you have to be their voice, and
Yeah.
and I loved them all. They were great, and my cats were goofy too. And we had nicknames for them, like Walter was Walter Pepperoni, and we had Inky, so he was Inkadink.
Oh, that's wild.
And I have a cat now, that lives with me. She's pure white, big fluffy cat. Her name is Diva, and so she's Diva Marie. Yes, and
great.
she is a very big diva. So anyway, I think our animal talk will be another episode. We could probably go on about that for a bit,
for
don't
sure.
you think?
Yeah, they're all great.
So, I love them. So this was your first time playing at the church.
It was.
So how was that?
It was incredible. Like I did a tour of the church like last summer. I met Ronnie and talked about signing up for their course to like learn more of like recording technologies and stuff like that, which is still an interest, but something I've had to prolong due to a rough year last year. But anyway, I got to talking with him. I got the tour. I got to meet all the engineers, and it was just so cool. And Ronnie was really nice, and he's like, I let him know. I was like, I'm starting this thing, and I just wonder like what kind of opportunities does the church offer as far as like local musicians. And he told me about like the local discounted rates for local musicians, as well as like the Tunes at Noon thing. And he was like, he got so hyped when I was telling him about like what I do and like what I wrote and like all that. And he's like, you tell me when you have an hour worth of music and I'm putting you on. And I was like, okay. And so, it was around like October or so. And I was just like, all right, I've got the music. I was like, let's do this. And like, that show was the longest set I've played too.
So 2.5 months later, here you are.
Yeah,
not
wild.
too bad for the longest set you ever played, right? Exactly. Not too bad of a venue,
right? Oh,
how did you feel with Tom Petty and the turtleneck looking at you?
Oh, uncomfortable.
I think that's everybody has said that, because I've stood up there and I'm a huge Tom Petty fan, and I'm like, and to see him in a turtleneck is odd enough, right?
Right.
So I'm like, I wonder what everybody feels like with Tom Petty like staring. And then you have Steve Ripley over on the side.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, all right, no pressure.
Right. Exactly. I remember when I was doing my tour too, and like Ronnie was just like, check out this microphone. And I was like, okay. And he's like, this was David Bowie's. And I was like, excuse me?
Yeah,
like, why are you just like manhandling this thing? Like, that's a piece of art.
Precious merch.
Right.
That my precious is, that's what I call my mic, my precious.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody can touch it.
Right.
It's my precious.
Nobody goes around my mic.
So let's talk about the songs that you did. The first one that you did, let me put my readers on here because I'm old like that. You did High Powered Moose, and I want to say out of the 4 songs that you did that we're going to talk about, all of them I could hear your influences. You're all over the map. I was telling Brandon on the side, I'm hearing a lot of influences here. But I was thinking it's like a video game or like the intro to some like really serious like TV drama or movie. Is that what you were going for with your sound, or is that just kind of how it went? Because it's really cool.
Yeah, thank you. So every song was just like how it happened. Like the influences that I have, which are so vast, but like you nailed it. Like old Nintendo games, like their old theme songs and boss battle music, and like old Saturday cartoons from the 80s and 90s, like those all fed this. And then like, I loved progressive rock. I loved Judas Priest. Nine Inch Nails is like my absolute top band. And it was like all this like permeates my music and comes together and makes like this weird thing. But it's like I never intentionally go out of my way to be like, like I wanna be this. It's more like I'll be like, I wonder what this would sound like if it was this. Like, High Powered Moose exactly is a song where I was like, I wonder what the band The Deer Hunter would sound like if they wrote a hardcore song. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take all this instrumentation and apply it to like a very kind of simplified, like punk focused rhythm, like the driving beat and all that. But then I was just like, it just kept getting weirder. And so it's like, and then like, the chorus sounds like a giant circus happening at once.
Yeah,
and
I
it's
loved
like,
it.
Yeah,
I loved it. It was great. And what a great song to open with, too.
Thank you.
Because that
yeah.
grabbed you. That was so great.
Thank you. I was really happy to like share this because like we just got Hypotenuse in December, and I was like, he's got to have a song. I got to make a song for this little guy. And so I was like, I'm opening it with this guy because like he's like the best thing ever right now. Yeah.
Aw, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
So what about the next one you did was Battle Bots, and that I noted to myself that sounds. I think you said that you had bizarre music. Like I make bizarre music at that point. And then you went into Battle Bots, and I'm like, so again, I'm hearing these influences everywhere. I'm hearing all this stuff. Just the genres that you mentioned. I'm like, I hear that. I heard that. And so how did that come to be? Was pretty much the same process?
Yeah, same process mostly, but it was like I started out with that opening riff, which like doesn't repeat and just is like a kind of a weird introduction to like what eventually happens. And I was like, when I wrote it, I was like, oh, this kind of sounds like Coheed and Cambria. And I was like, that's like one of my favorite bands. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep moving forward with this because I was like, let's see where it goes. And then I was just like, this song needs blast beats. And I was like, how do I do that? And so like a lot of approaches are just like I try to write like 16 bars of music or 16 bars of a riff and then build on that, and then like another 16 bars of like either changing that around a little bit to make it more interesting, or a whole new idea. And when I approach new ideas, it's like, how could I make this fun or interesting, or like what would make me want to hear it? And so it was just a lot of it was just like, what would happen if I tried to do this? And so like the chorus, it was just like, I was like, I want to have like a soaring, loud power metal chorus. So I was like, I'm going to do, some chords with some fast drums. And then all of a sudden that melody came out of it. And I was like, this sounds like something straight out of Nintendo, like a Final Fantasy game.
Yeah.
And I was like, so I fell in love with it. And I was just like, I'm going to move forward with this. And like, that one took me a couple months to like wrap up because like I didn't know how to finish it. And I also was like, it was like around 2 minutes, and I was like, I feel like this should be longer. But then when I did wrap it up, I was like, no, 2 minutes is perfect.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
And I love the peaks and valleys. I'm like, oh yeah, this is really good. So, and then the next one you played was Storm Cloud, and that was totally different from how BattleBots was.
Yeah.
It started almost like. Let me read my note. It was like whimsical. It started like with this whimsy, this real nice soft intro, and then all of a sudden you like blast our face off. And I'm like, wow, I'm like, that is really, really good. So tell me about that.
That one was written around kind of the same time as High Powered Moose, where I was, still in that mind frame of like, what would the Deer Hunter sound like with punk beats or stuff like that. And so, like that opening was just it's very Baroque.
Yeah.
And I was like, this song needs a harpsichord. So like that song, like writing that song was the moment where
a harpsichord. Oh my gosh. Right. That's so cool.
Yeah. And I was like, I want this to sound like, kind of like Bach-ish, and go with that, because the original version of it didn't feature as much instrumentation. It was like a 6-track piece. And I remember like, I originally submitted it to like a Rate Your Song live YouTube thing, and like the person reviewing was like, wow, there's like there's kind of what is that, counter I can't think of what Bach was famous for, like counter melodies or something like that. There was like a lot of that happening, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. Somehow that happened. And so when I came back to that song, I was just like, I was like, I got to make this even more whimsical. So I was like, I plugged it into my 21-track template, and I was just like, I'm gonna go nuts with the strings and everything, and all the woodwinds, and it was. Yeah,
then all of a sudden, I'm like, what? But that's what you don't expect, and so that was so cool.
Thank you.
I love that.
Thank
it was
you.
great. Yeah.
It's so much fun.
Yeah, you look like you were having a great time up there playing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like my whole point of like doing music is like it has to be fun.
Yes.
Because like if I'm not enjoying myself doing this, like I don't really want to do it. Like I hate working.
Right. So why would you?
Right.
Yeah.
And so like this whole thing has just been approached with fun, and everything has been a surprise that's come out of it. Like I've just approached it like selfishly. I wrote this music for myself. I was just like, I want to write music that I want to hear because like I've been listening to a lot of the same music since I was since college. Like I've been listening to the same bands over and over again. And so like when I started writing my music, and I just like, it's all I would listen to. Like I drove my wife and kids nuts. My kid nuts. Like they were like, I don't want to listen to this anymore. And so yeah, it's been so neat that like people have like embraced it and come around it and like and have had positive things to say.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how to feel about that sometimes because
Yeah.
it's just like I'm like I just like this. Like I really like this, and it's weird like being so vulnerable and being like, do you like this?
Yeah, we've talked about that. I've talked about that with other guests, and we say, music is our joy. I mean, that's what we do. We love making music.
Yeah.
And, then all the other stuff, always becomes like secondary, like, okay, so now we have to go out and hustle up a gig. Now we got to talk to a promoter, and we have to go do our day gig too, because, our music isn't paying the bills yet.
Yeah.
So it's like, you're doing what you love, but it's just you want to do it more because that's just what you love. And writing songs, like a lot of us write, like really sad songs because they're easier to write. We've talked about that. But yours, you don't have lyrics on yours, so we can kind of form our own story. With that. Was that one of your intentions? Was to have people, because I can picture myself sitting with my earbuds in, listening to this music and just daydreaming about. I can just see it. I can feel it.
Yeah,
was that your intention, writing this kind of music?
That's always been the goal for me because like I have ADHD, and so my brain is so loud. Like it's always so loud, and so like when I was discovering music, like Nine Inch Nails spoke to me as a teenager because like it was loud, but it was also so layered, like delicately layered, and it was like if you like listen to it like from speakers or whatever, it was just like okay, this is cool, but like headphones. And I was just like, whoa, what's happening here? Like, there's so many things like happening at once. And like, for me, like listening to music has always been kind of like almost like a meditative experience. And just like, I spend all my time like, not only taking it in like fully, but also like listening to every individual piece that's happening at once and just being like in awe of like trying to pick out and just being like catching those little like hidden flourishes or things that like you don't really hear unless you're really into it. And like that's I try to like pepper that in like a lot. If I am writing my music for somebody, it's for the musicians that'll sit there and like pick it apart and just be like, wow, why did he do that? Or like at least I hope so. Like, I don't know what other musicians think of my music, but I'm having so much fun doing it, and that's cool.
I think that's great. And I have a feeling that you're going to have some musicians kind of checking you out, to come and, help them, especially with the exposure that you're going to, the props you're going to get from the church.
Yeah.
Everybody loves the Tunes at Noon.
Yeah.
So when they see what you do, and maybe you could bring something to their project too. And that's just, to me, that would be an ultimate compliment. Anytime, another musician acknowledges anything, it's like, wow.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so warming.
And you don't know what to say. You're almost like, you see this guy every day, you drink beer with him, you hang out, but then they acknowledge your music and you just kind of...
Yeah. And like one thing that's like been so great about doing this project for the last year is like, we like my wife and I are just we're homebodies. We kind of like stick around at home. We don't have a large like social group here, but like the community that we've been able to like participate in and try to like create our own space in those communities as well. So like has been so good. Like I've befriended so many great people and other like local bands and like. And some of the scene and venue owners have been so kind and so great around here, and yeah, like just everybody is so willing to volunteer what they can and have.
Yes.
To be to just build everybody up, and it's so warming to like be a part of that. And like my wife and I are trying to like give back as much as we can too, because like, you know, music doesn't pay anything. Like, what, it takes like 1 million streams to make $1 or something on Spotify. So, like, you know, we do like a we're starting to do like a bi-monthly potluck now, where like the community's invited and our neighbors. We did our first one last month, which was a lot of fun. And then we're planning on doing one next month as well. And then another thing is working with some local trans people in building a music festival, like a local music festival here for, you know, trans and queer fronted bands. You know, we've got a good lineup, like already lined up. We've got a venue through Noisetown, a sponsor through One Ox, which has been really cool. And now it's just a matter of like getting that funding, which fingers crossed, like I'm applying through a partnership of Tulsa Creative Engine and Tulsa Remote. My wife and I are both Tulsa remoters, so like hopefully that, you know, gives us some weight.
Great.
Yeah. So like everything's all set up now. The goal is to like get this funding through TCE so that we can just pay the bands up front. You know, just like everybody gets a flat rate for coming. Thanks for playing. You know, we pay the venue. And then the goal is that the fees that are collected at the door are mutual aid. Every dollar goes to mutual aid. Cool. like that's my mission as well. Like my mission as Static Cathedral is every dollar that I earn is invested back into my community. So, you know, it hasn't been much. Like I haven't gotten any Spotify pay, but you know, I did a show out in Norman, got paid, you know, like $23 or something like that. And, you know, I sent immediately, as soon as I could, I sent that to Tulsa Food Not Bombs. And what we just made through the church, you know, that's going to other mutual aid, especially looking at some LA mutual aid support sources as well, because
recent
goodness.
Events. Yeah.
That
is really cool. That is so cool.
Yeah.
And the Tulsa community, I mean, I've been here almost 2 years in May, and I noticed that immediately. You know, it's like you're just embraced. Yeah, and we've lost a couple people in 2024. Like the last quarter of 2024 was not good, right? No. You know? And I had somebody say to me, you have to, you know, we grieve as a music community. We're going to heal as a music community because music is the healer. And it sounds so simple but it's true. And they told me, you know, let us love you. You know, lean in. Yeah. You know, and it's like, you know, so instead of isolating, it was more like, you know, come to us, you know, let us love you. And a friend of mine, excuse me, that just recently had a loss, I repeated that to her. And I said, it was told to me, it really helped. So now.
For sure. Yeah, that's, our family's like, last year was a rough one for my wife and I as well. Like, you know, we started off the year with her in a hospital stay, like almost died from pneumonia, which is
oh my gosh,
the worst thing ever. Like I was a mess. And at the same time I was dealing with COVID. So like, why? Like 2024 just like started off just saying like, you know, thumbs down. That's but you know, despite all like the hardships that have occurred, like I had back surgery last year too, in June. Like the whole time I was recording my first EP, The Zoo, I was in the worst space of my life, physically, mentally, emotionally. Like I couldn't walk to the bathroom without being in like severe pain or fatigue. And I like set up this little mobile recording station in the living room, and I just sat there, and my wife would be watching TV or working, and I'd be plugging away, like recording songs as best I could. But it'd be like, I would do a take, and then I'd have to like lay down for 15 minutes because the fatigue was overwhelming. The back pain was so bad. So like right before I released The Zoo, I like went under the knife, had a discectomy, and was like, you know, like I couldn't do anything for a couple months there. And then, you know, it was like, I remember thinking like, you know, when am I going to make this a live thing? Like, when am I going to try playing this out? And I was like, because I didn't know what to expect about back surgery recovery. And thankfully, like, you know, early July, I got reached out to like play a show at the Sound Pony. And I was like, maybe I had gotten the okay from my doctor to, you know, hold things greater than 10 pounds. So I was like, all right, the guitar is back in business. I was like, I can do this. And And then I was just like, I cashed out my 401k because I was like, what's the point if I'm disabled? And so I bought that pedal and I was just like, let's do this, making this happen.
Oh, cool.
And like, I was so scared going into that show too, because I was like, what if my back, like what happens if something happens to my back, or like, what if the fatigue kick in? And I was just like, nope, it just happened. Like you said, music is healing.
Yeah.
And like every show, like leading up to it or like afterwards, like I'm a mess. Like it's hard. Like it's hard to be mobile and active. But like when the show day, like I'm a whole new person. During the show, I'm a whole new person. But the next day, like when I go home tonight, like I'm not moving from my bed.
Yeah.
But
so do you get that emotionally too? Because I know, like after performing, you're like on this adrenaline rush, and it takes a minute, to come down. But then I personally have to isolate for a little bit, because we have a joke, me and a bass player friend of mine, we say it got real people-y.
Yeah.
And so we need to de-people. I just want to kind of read my book and drink my tea and pet my cat.
Exactly.
So do you go through that as well? In addition to the physical rest that you have to take.
Oh yes, for sure. Like social events, like most of them I look forward to, but like it's hard. Like it's hard to be around people. I'm also autistic, so like social cues and body language and stuff are a lot of things that I miss, and like I also can say the most outlandish things that people don't. I have a problem of assuming people are already in on the inside joke that I'm telling myself,
Yes.
and instead I just like anger them instead of making them laugh. And like my wife, like every day, she's just like, why are you saying this? I'm just like, I don't know, my brain.
Came out.
Right, it's just my brain.
I think kind of Brandon does that to me too. I know when I'm getting when I'm overwhelming, because he'll go, "Oh God," and I'll be like, "Oh, okay, gotta reel it back." The boss is talking.
Right. Exactly.
So, well, the last song that you did, I think that one that we caught of your fourth set, I think that was probably my favorite. It was called "Small Time Crimes," and again, that's another one that started out, it had that whimsy to it, and then we're speed metal.
Yeah.
And I was like, what in the world?
Yeah.
You know, so, but it was so good.
Thank you.
I loved it. So again, was that one of how the concept, that you just kind of kept building and building and building on the sound?
Yeah. That one was, if I remember correctly, I just like plugged in a fast BPM and was just like, let's see what happens.
Yeah,
and I was
imagine
like,
that.
I was like, I want to write a metal song. I wanted fast double bass and maybe some blast beats. But then I was just like, then it just went where it went, which was, like, why is there a bridge at the beginning where it like becomes all like flutes and like weird harmonics happening and like strings, like lush strings, and and then back into the speed metal, and it's like, like I feel like everything that I'm writing, like with the layers and like the constant changing of like whether genre flipping or anything, is really just trying to give my brain some dopamine.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to listen to it in my headphones now, because I was so impressed, with your setup. It's a very simple setup. You have those two guitars, which I really was kind of loving your pink ones so much. And I saw that prior, to meeting you. I'm like, oh, I hope he brings that pink guitar. So tell me about the kind of the two rigs that you played today, the two guitars, and you got them from our sponsor, the Music Store on 31st and Mingo, Larry Rourke, and the guys. So tell me about those guitars.
Yeah. So when I first started like playing guitar, like I wanted to play metal. I really wanted metal. And so like I went through this whole thing of like playing, those pointy shred guitars and stuff. And then through college, like I really got into like post-hardcore emo type things and like lightening up on like the gain on the guitar channel and the rhythm and just like and so I eventually was like I need a Telecaster. I wanted a Telecaster. I love Telecasters.
Yes.
I love the twang. And then I was like I want a Strat. So I have a Strat, which I don't really bring out much because it's like my baby.
Precious,
basically.
you're precious.
It's my precious.
Yes.
It really is. Like it's the most I've ever spent on a guitar, and I was just like, oh, it's mine. I want it.
Yeah.
And I came across, and then I was like, I want a Jazzmaster. I've always wanted like a Jazzmaster shaped guitar, since like Incubus is live at the Red Rocks. Like Mike Eisensinger, pulls out a white one. And I was just like. I got fanboy. I was like, oh my God, that guitar is gorgeous. And I was like, I need that. And so, and then a couple years ago when I had a 7-string guitar that I wasn't playing, I wasn't doing anything. And my wife we have this like kind of approach to things. Like if something new's coming out, something old has to go. And so I was like, 7 strings got to go. So I was like, I got to have this pink guitar because it had everything that I wanted. It was like it had the rosewood fretboard, the large fret markings, and like the P90s and the pink and the floating bridge too. And I was just like, I gotta have it. So like I found it on Reverb. I saw it there at the music store, and just like I gotta have it. And so I went and got it, sold the 7-string, and like now I'm just set. Like I'm just like I don't need any more guitars. So.
You say that now.
I do, and like
you are a guitar player,
right? I still dream occasionally, like Sweetwater to spend nights and just like.
Yeah, they do financing too. They're great,
right? Yeah, that's what's scary.
I know, right?
So, and why those are like my two main guitars is that my Telecaster, it's got I tune that to like a very different tuning. I call it like a 7-string on a 6-string tuning. And basically I just, it's tuned in standard, but the low E string is down to a B.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so like, it gives me, like the range of being in a 6-string, but that low B. And so like everything on the Zoo and then like, a couple other songs after that are in that tuning. So like, that's why, I call that one Guitarlos, and I carry it around with me everywhere. And then a lot of other songs are in complete standard tuning. And so, and those are the ones that are more like shred focused and might need a whammy bar and stuff. And so
I saw you use you made use of that on the pink guitar. That was great.
Oh yeah, it's been my dream my whole life to just do whammy dives and stuff.
That's great.
And so and yeah, I was just like I had to have that. I was just like I had to have that guitar, and like it works so perfectly for like what I do because like the P90s have like they've got a good like single coil kind of twang to them, but they've got enough like I hate this word, but meat. Like they have enough meat of like almost like a humbucker, and it's like this nice in between, and like everything was specifically chosen to give me a tone, like a tone blend that I really love, and those have all just been so perfect for like what I'm going for. Especially my Strat. My Strat is the most versatile guitar I own. Like I can get so many different sounds and feels out of that thing, and like, I just.
I definitely heard that low E key, you know, with your B key, the low, because that's the key I sing in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I thought to my mind, I'm like, he just hit the low E, that's the key. You know?
Exactly.
I was like, oh, yay. You know, I thought that was so cool.
Yeah.
So, and you have 2 EPs out, right?
I do.
Tell us what they're called and where we can find you.
Cool. So I have The Zoo. That was my first release last year. And that one features all in that B tuning, in that low, gritty tone.
Love it.
And then released a couple singles in between there. I covered, there's an instrumental cover of 9 Inch Nails' Last, which I haven't played live because it's in drop D, and like, I don't feel like carrying around a third guitar. So I just have it. And then there's Oops All Berries, which is a song for my wife, because I don't know, just the dynamics of it feel very much like our relationship and her personality and all that.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's so cool. And then I have my latest release is All Cats Are Beautiful. That is
That's very true.
right.
In the literal sense, all cats are beautiful.
They really are.
Yeah.
They're my favorite. Like one of my sorry to go off on a tangent, but one of my wife's favorite things to do, the favorite thing to do when we travel is how many cats are we going to see? We keep a count. Sometimes you get photos of them. Like we went to Iceland for our honeymoon, and we saw like 10 cats. We went to Greece, 2 Octobers ago, 20 cats. 20 cats. Cool. We had a nickname for every single one. I forgot them, but it was awesome.
I love that.
And so like we've gone on some cruises to like Central America too, and there's like photos of me like hanging out with Honduran cats.
How cool.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Cat whisperer.
And we used to say, and when we especially when we lived in Monument Valley, because they always seem to turn up in our yard, you know. And my friends in Phoenix, because we lived in Phoenix, Arizona for a little while, and he's like, I think that you guys have like a bat signal, you know, like this lady here will take care of your cats. Just go, you know, knock at the door, you know, and then it wouldn't be, it wasn't unusual at all, you know. I'm like, oh, where'd you come from? Okay, come on, you know, let's get you taken care of, you know. So exactly. I love that.
Yeah. And sorry to interject, but also I have 6 songs out of a soon to be 7 for my next EP, which will be titled Don't Surround Yourself with Yourself, which is one of my
song?
one of my favorite quotes from Yes. And the artwork this time is done by my child, which is I'm so excited to share. Yeah.
How old are your children?
My child, I just have one.
One child,
and
okay.
They are 13.
Awesome.
And they're punk rock AF.
I love it.
Yeah.
So the artwork is going to be punk rock AF too?
Oh, totally.
Okay,
it's
cool.
so good. They're like, their ability to draw is amazing. Like I don't understand how like they are, the things they're able to do with their art, like especially digital art or like hand draw, any medium you give them, they're doing the most amazing art I've ever seen.
love it.
And I don't understand why.
I think
like
that's
how.
great though. I think that's so great.
It's so good. And we celebrate it every time, like every chance we get, and we embrace it and try to like provide as much space for them to be able to do that.
I love that. That's so cool. You know, that is so cool.
Yeah.
I love it. So where can we find your music?
Yes. I am on all streaming platforms, you know, the usual Spotify, YouTube, and all that. I've also got both my EPs and Oops All Berries on Bandcamp. Okay. Those are labeled kind of like pay as you go. But any dollar that you pay me will go to mutual aid. So stream my music, buy my music. We've got stickers, buttons too.
I have your sticker.
Yeah.
I added it to my collection here. So that'll be on. Yeah, it's great.
Definitely. So, thank you for putting it on there and sharing it. I love that. So yeah, like, I don't know. I'm so happy to like be able to do this. And I'm so happy to be able to share what I have and be in service to the people in my community. So, and having this opportunity to talk to you and share with it, like on a
What
large
great
scale.
energy. I love it. I
Thank
love
you.
it. And, you're striking me as an example, like what you give is what you get.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think, that the more you perform, I think that you're going to get more so you can give more. And I think that's so beautiful, especially in, today's world. We have a lot of conflict and nonsense going on, so if we can give like that, with what we love to do.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
That's some good juju right there.
Right. And that's the goal is like community's everything.
Yeah.
Like we are nothing without our people.
True.
And so I'm embracing that. My wife's embracing that. 2025 for us is like, how do we make a better impact on ourselves and our community and our child? So like, that's the goal.
I love it.
And whatever good comes out of that, I hope to share with as many people as I can.
I love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for spending time with us and sharing your talent and your stories. I really enjoyed having you as our guest. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate this. This was fun.
You. Yeah, it was. It was great. And thank you guys so much for joining us today as well. You can stream us on YouTube. We'll have all the links there for Kristen's music as well. So, definitely, do help the cause there. And we will see you soon. We have a lot of great shows coming up in 2025, so I hope you guys tune in. We're going to have a great year. Thank you.